Andrew Mumford joins us now for more on how the change of administration could impact ongoing wars around the world. He's a professor of war studies at the University of Nottingham there in England. Professor, thanks for being with us. This is an ideal moment for any incoming president to have a ceasefire and hostage exchange agreement in place between Israel and Hamas, or at least the release of hostages by Hamas and the release of Palestinian prisoners by Israel. But what kind of impact could it have on the Trump administration? Because the challenging part now is making sure this gets followed through and that the phases, as far as reconstruction of Gaza, actually come to fruition.
Absolutely. Good morning, Errol. The key to all of this, I think, has been Trump trying to use his influence with Benjamin Netanyahu. Trump has talked openly about how this incoming administration of his, Trump Mark II, will be the most pro-Israeli administration in American history. I think what's very clear is that his attempt to try and influence the ceasefire deal before he took over today is another demonstration of the way in which he's going to try and make sure that his new administration can continue to really fall in line with some of Netanyahu's broader security goals across Israel, but there will be maintaining a heavy influence of Washington's sort of look over his shoulder when it comes to the future problems that now exist, including, as you mentioned, the reconstruction of Gaza and other future Israeli security agreements. But there's a bigger context across the Middle East, which I think is more interesting as Trump approaches taking over today. The broader picture, of course, includes a new regime in Syria, but I think there's going to be broader disengagement from across the Middle East. He's going to keep a wary eye on Iran, I think. Bear in mind, of course, in his first term, Trump took out the Quds Force leader, Qasem Soleimani. So I think overall, he will be willing to engage in targeted killings of perceived enemies of America in the Middle East, but that there will be no large-scale military interventions as we've seen with previous administrations.
Now, the other conflict that wasn't raging the last time Trump was in the White House is the war in Ukraine, the aggression by Russia towards it. Trump has been criticized for being too cozy with Vladimir Putin, the head of Russia, too cozy with the Kremlin. How would you expect him to approach this war, which is now entering its third year?
Trump's number one objective is clearly to secure a ceasefire agreement in Ukraine. He's talked previously about how he could end the war on day one. Clearly, that's classic Trump hyperbole, but his new administration is clearly going to be pushing both sides, both President Putin and President Zelensky, to form some sort of agreement. It was interesting to hear the incoming Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, in his Senate confirmation hearings recently, talk about how America will not leave Ukraine high and dry, that there will be security agreements in place. But President Zelensky's biggest fear is that Trump will simply withdraw American support for his government, withdraw the sending of American weapons, withdraw American financial aid to the country, because Trump is very clearly intent on making the management of the Ukraine war a European problem, and that disengagement from it along a ceasefire that he can, similarly to the deal in Gaza, can claim credit for in the end.
And we know many NATO leaders see less reliance on U.S. backing because of Trump's rhetoric. Andrew Mumford, great to have your insight on all of this, joining us from Sheffield today.